So today's topic is going to be on getting out of the freeze state or a freeze response. And this is something I had to do a little bit of research on because I knew I was in like fight or flight mode before, but I didn't really know about this like freeze state until December when I got sick. And then I like started feeling better, but then my body wouldn't be as responsive. Like it was hard for me to stay on task, to stay on my routine. Like it kind of was like leading me into like almost like depression. And I'm like, what is this? Like I've been good. I know it's like I know it's like the sickness, I was sick, but I'm like feeling better. So I kind of didn't have like that drive, that energy that I usually have. But what I also noticed is like when I was sick, God was kind of speaking to me at night, and I knew it was like the old me was kind of dying in this sickness. And as I was getting better, like the new mentality, the new Irina, the new version of Irina was kind of stepping into play, kind of. And it's that transition where the old is like breaking off and like you're going somewhere, but you're not like quite sure. So, and when you are not quite sure, you're uncertain, you're fearful, your body may go into like this freeze because you're like, I don't really know how to do it. Like you're so overwhelmed that you kind of like freeze and you're like, I don't want to think, I don't want to say, everything seems like too much energy. So I see it as kind of like an opening to a new you. Kind of like, you know how butterfly, right? It goes from what is that called? From being a caterpillar, right? And then it transitions into a butterfly. But in order, it goes through like a phase, right? I forget what it's like called, but it goes through a phase where it's kind of like it shuts down, right? It's not yet a caterpillar. It's not a caterpillar already, but then it's not a butterfly yet. So it's like that in between, or kind of like a baby. Labor. Labor is kind of like somewhat like of a freeze because a baby transitions from a wound, from being inside a wound for like 9 months, and it's going through to be like out, in the world, and it goes through labor, it goes through like, a tunnel. So sometimes being in a freeze state means you're going through like a tunnel, but you're transitioning into something new. Okay. Um, and a lot of people may stay here and you may stay here for a while because this can lead to like a lot of anxiety. Anxiety can lead to depression, and it can like lead you into like very like a dark place. Um, so, so freeze response is a survival mechanism when you feel threatened or unsafe or triggered, right? Kind of like a baby. It's like, I don't know where I'm going. I know like my time is up in the wound. I know I gotta like, why do babies cry when they come out? Why? Because they're like, where am I? This is like a new world. Now I need oxygen. Now I need to learn to like find mommy's milk, right? It's like a whole new world. And that labor process is it's kind of like threatening. It doesn't feel safe because you're like, I don't know how to like behave. So I like this analogy, kind of like the baby analogy. Um, so common factors why you may get into a freeze state is one, trauma, two, anxiety, and three is stress. So trauma, experiencing abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, you're always being hurt, you're being unseen, people are talking down to you, people don't really care about like your emotions and how you feel. It's neglect, like you feel like you are neglected. Um, and all of these things, they cause the body to freeze. Anxiety, so anxiety can trigger a fight or flight response that results in freezing. So when you've been in fight or flight for too long, you go into freeze. And that is usually associated with a lot of anxiety. When you experience like panic attacks, right, you can get into like a freeze state. Uh, and then stress. So when you have high levels of stress, they also trigger freeze. What does it look like? What are the symptoms that you are in a freeze state? So you feel like you are stuck, you feel numb, you feel dissociation, like you can't really like pay attention when people talk to you for a long time, like you kind of get distracted. Like you're here, but you're mentally like somewhere else. Even like you could be watching a movie, but like you're doing something else. You're washing the dishes, but you're kind of like distracted. So you tend to like distract like mentally a lot. Reduced emotional responsiveness, so you don't react. So when normally like you got hurt, like a natural thing would be like to react, kind of like either get angry or cry, but you're kind of like numb. You're like nothing. You're not getting angry and you're not crying. You're in this like in between. You just like feel very cold, and kind of like closed off. Um, you have difficulty forming connections with others. This is where like trust comes in, and this is where trusting people, making friends, kind of being not even introverted, because introverted a lot of healed people are introverted, like they're cool being alone, but it's more of like um I don't really want to talk, I don't really want to share, like walls. It's more like putting up walls with people. You go somewhere, you don't really say hi, you're in your bubble. You go to church, you don't really talk to anybody, like very isolated type of thing. So those are all signs of you being in a freeze, especially if it's not who naturally you are, you know? So if naturally you're a little bit more outgoing, you're a little bit more approachable, right? But this is kind of like, I don't want people to hurt me, so I'm just kind of gonna like stay here, in my little bubble. Um, so long-term effects, if you stay long time in this, you will it can lead to burnout, chronic pain, and emotional disconnection. Um, yeah, so when you are in this, this can lead into like certain like diseases and kind of like sicknesses, but that's like if you kind of don't deal with it. So how do you cope with this? Um, So first of all, is like identify that you kind of like have a problem, right? And you're like this is like not normal. So and then to deal with it is identify the trigger, and develop a coping strategy. Um, so this, like the way I see it is I kind of identify what is the emotion. Okay, so if the emotion is anxiety, then I say, okay, what triggered it, right? Or why am I anxious right now? So let's start there. You don't have to necessarily deal with it. At least like know what is the emotion and what triggered it. Like start with those two things. Like, why am I feeling like down? What is the emotion I am like trying to kind of like avoid, and what kind of like triggered it, right? Um, so talking to somebody would be like ideal, because when you talk to somebody, like you let it out, like it comes out of your system and it comes out. Um, then if this is like gets like really bad, do breathing exercises. And the way I did go cold kind of through a season where I was like kind of like healing my anxiety. So to heal it, I did a lot of like breath work. As soon as like I was feeling like my heart's kind of racing, like I'm getting kind of fearful, I would do breath work. And I might have done it with some of you guys like on our calls. And it's the 6 second type of rule. So where you breathe in 6 seconds, you hold for 6 seconds, you breathe out for 6 seconds, and then you hold for 6 seconds. And then you do that like 6 times. So what that causes is your oxygen begins to flow differently to your like brain cells, and then it causes you to kind of like relax, because then like you're kind of focused on your breathing at that moment, and once you like let it out, you feel more calmer, and like that emotion kind of like let you go. So try breathing exercises when you are feeling freezed or like super anxious. After I do that exercise, I try to get up and do like a small task. Sometimes it's going and like washing my face. For me, actually, like clothes and laundry is very soothing. I don't know what it is, but sometimes if I know I need to go do laundry, that's like the one task that like I don't mind doing it. And usually, like what I do is like I do my breathing exercise. I turn on some kind of music, maybe like not too sad, but not too high energy, something like in between. Because if I do kind of sad, I'm gonna stay in like sad emotions. If I do high energy, like I'm not feeling high energy. So I will do something just maybe like a worship song, right? So I breathe, I turn on like a worship song, and then I go like do laundry. First of all, I distracted myself, not to think about my problem, but to think about something else. Um, and I got productive. Like I got up and I started doing laundry. So this is how you get out of that is you begin doing something productive, and it doesn't have to be like a big task, like something you dread like doing. So do something that you like doing. Sometimes I might like start like picking up clothes or something, because I don't know, clothes is kind of like healing to me. I like that. I like chore around the house. So start doing like a chore that you like doing around the house. Um, um, okay. The other thing, maybe before like you do like a task, another thing I do is like I hug myself. Um, so this comes from like support and seeing yourself and supporting yourself through the emotion. And I hug, myself, and you talk to yourself in a supportive way. I don't know if you guys can like see me. And I say, "Hey, Irina," you can say your name or you could like not. And you could like speak to yourself in like third person and you can say, "Hey, Irina, like everything's gonna be okay. There's nothing," and then you put like your hands on the heart. Um, there's nothing to be afraid of. You are safe. You are in good hands. So getting into a freeze means what? You're feeling unsafe, you're feeling threatened. So when you soothe yourself, it's kind of like a baby, how you would talk to your child, like you would hug them. You'd be like, "Hey, like everything's gonna be all right. Um, um, good, good, good. Everything is all right. Like you're safe. Nobody like you're not gonna die. Like nobody's chasing you. Like everything's gonna be okay. Um, and like you're in good hands." Now, this is important. This is where you need to start building a trustworthy relationship with yourself. So, a big stem of this, a big root of going into freeze is you don't have a trustworthy relationship with yourself. Um, and your body feels like it can't trust you because you, especially like if you're experiencing like abuse, like if you live with an abuser, and especially like if you stay, your body doesn't really feel safe because you're like with your mind you feel unsafe, but then with your heart you want to be with this person because you love them. So there's this disbalance, you're not aligned, so your body is gonna like react, because it doesn't really feel safe in the environment. This is why it's going into the freeze. And this is where discipline kind of begins, like showing up a little bit, and I'm going to get into that. And this is where self-forgiveness may need to come in. Um, so um, so build a trustworthy relationship with yourself. Forgive yourself. Um, and the way that you forgive yourself is you say things like, "I promise I will take care, I will take better care of you." And this is how you're speaking to yourself. "I am sorry I wasn't there for you before." Right? So you're forgiving like your own self for not protecting yourself when you needed to. Like when you didn't speak up, you say, "Hey, I am so sorry. Like I didn't speak up when I should have." Hey, so it's kind of like you're kind of like talking to your inner child in a way, even though like you're a grown person, but you're talking to that inner like part of you that's like hurt, right? And you're kind of hurt because you know you should be setting a boundary, but you're not. You know you should be leaving this relationship, but you're not. You know you should be like communicating, but you're avoiding hard conversations, right? So apologize to yourself, and this comes with accountability. So if you do this, this is very mature. Like this is a very mature process, and you're gonna grow a lot. You're gonna get a lot of breakthrough if you start taking accountability for yourself and you forgive yourself um for kind of like neglecting your own self. Like sometimes we think other people neglect us, but actually, if we are being like very honest with ourselves, we're neglecting ourselves by not doing the things that we should be doing. Um, Another thing that really helped me is taking a long shower. So when I was like in freeze, um, and these are all like variations. You can do them all together or you can do like one thing at a time. So when you're freeze, try breathing and then doing like some kind of chore around the house. If you're frozen, go take a shower. If you are feeling this, like hug yourself and talk to yourself and promise yourself and forgive things. So, um, it doesn't mean you have to do all of these things, but find like what works for you. Find what works for you best. So the things that what I identified was breathing exercise and then doing a small chore. So it's causing you to be productive, right? Because this is where sometimes negative self-talk comes in because you're like, man, I'm being so lazy. I don't have the energy. I'm not being productive. So if that kind of inner voice is circling in you, do the breathing exercise and then go do something productive, right? One. The other two is identify what you are going through and talk to the emotion, talk to the trigger, and hold yourself, hug yourself. And the other one would be like take a shower because there's a lot of healing in the water when you are being like water baptism, right? You come out a different person after. I mean, that's a little like extreme, but there's a lot of healing in the water. It's kind of like I cry a lot in showers. Sometimes I get angry in the shower because kids don't really see me in the shower. So it's like me time, and I process a lot of emotions in the showers. If I want to cry, I cry. If I want to like sing at the top of my lungs, like I sing at the top of my lungs. So that's like me time. So taking a long shower, that will also help you kind of get out of like freeze. So that's like in a nutshell, what is the freeze state and what are the symptoms and how to get out of it. And the next thing is discipline. Um, Discipline will help you not to kind of like fall back, right? And discipline is what's gonna build a trustworthy relationship with yourself. Um, and this is where, like, if you're like super kind of like frozen, you're kind of like on borderline like depressed, you may need to start with like if you're sleeping a lot, you don't have a lot of energy. This is where you need to start with the basics. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? How are you drinking? And what is your hygiene? Like, are you taking a daily shower? Are you washing your hair? Are you, like taking care of yourself? Because sometimes when you're like in that funk, you could be like not taking like care of yourself. And that's super, super important because all of these things are in your control. Sometimes you go into a freeze because I was going to talk about that, but I guess I'm kind of like skipping, is when you feel like you have no control of your life. So then you kind of work backwards and you're like, what do I have control of? And that means, and what you do have control of is of your physical body, right? And it comes with how you sleep, how you eat, how you drink. And it comes with being aware. Are you eating just to eat? Are you stressed out in your eating? Are you overeating? Are you not eating enough? Like that comes with awareness and being intentional about what you eat, how you drink. Are you like only running on caffeine, right? How's your water intake? How maybe pour in some orange juice. Another thing I really found is when I eat berries, I get it like into a better mood. Berries are so therapeutic, like it's kind of like a natural sugar. It's a natural glucose, and um, I found like they put me like in a better mood. So whenever I have like blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, any kind of like berry, like I get into like a better mood. So like if you feel like you have that, get some extra berries. Um, okay, so this is how you're going to get into discipline. Set small, achievable goals, something that you can manage, manageable steps to avoid feeling overwhelmed. This is where we go to the extreme. Like when we don't have control, we tend to like self-sabotage. We tend to then by not doing anything because it feels like we have so much to do, like we fall into like guilt and shame and we're like, man, I'm lazy. I'm not doing anything. And this is kind of like from going like feeling all of those negative emotions to like, oh my gosh, I gotta get everything done and like like kind of going into like super mode, right? There's kind of like that healthy medium. There's that healthy in between where you do get things done, and actually being feminine is is kind of like doing things slow. Like a slow morning is like will really get you into your feminine energy when you're not in a rush, when you wake up a few minutes before the kids wake up. It's like super feminine. Like you start off your day like on a good like note when you wake up before the kids, and it doesn't have to be like too much, but maybe you can drink a cup of coffee before they wake up. Maybe you can even just like wash your face and do a little bit of skincare before they wake up. Even a little bit of that, you're pouring into yourself, and your day is already gonna feel better because you poured a little bit into your cup. Um, okay. So small, achievable steps so that you're not feeling overwhelmed, and you begin to build momentum. So towards achieving your goals. Okay. So if you're not sleeping well, start sleeping better. If you're not eating well, be more intentional about what you're eating. Drinking, right? Your hygiene. Little by little, start taking, being more intentional about like the basics. Okay. Like right now, don't worry about like the big projects. Don't worry about like all the things. Like start with this, start small, and then build momentum. Then this is where creating a routine kind of comes in. If you're kind of getting better at this, then create a routine. Create routines is like a whole different topic. And this is where, I'm going to introduce you guys to my glow up course, because actually in the glow up course I teach like all of this. So it's like 20 videos on routines, on discipline. And I like it that it kind of like goes like at a good pace. Like one week we focus on physical glow up. Next, and physical glow up, it introduces exercise. I talk about creating routines, and I talk about time management. Um, so those are the only three things you kind of focus on in that one week. And then I like it that you pay one annual price, and then you get access for a whole year to these like videos, and you just go at your own pace. Like no rush, you have it for a whole year, and you go like as like you're ready to go. So first week is like those three things. Next week is emotional glow up. It's like overcoming your triggers. It's healing your wounds. It's getting out of victim mentality. Then like week three is spiritual glow up, creating a lifestyle that's like a woman of God would have. So it's like daily Bible reading, making time for that, daily prayer life, talking to God, not just like when you pray, but like constantly. Like you're constantly like you're doing your stuff, but you're like talking to the Holy Spirit. Everything you do is like, you get triggered, you're like, "Hey, Holy Spirit, like what was that? Like what are you trying to tell me?" Or like something happened, you're like, so I started like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting off topic. But I started like I used to kind of like talk to God or like Lord, but now I kind of like addressing like the Holy Spirit more, because he's the one that's like with me all the time. Because when I think God, I think of the Father, and he's like always on the throne. So he seems kind of far. And then Jesus, he died, like he did his part, and so he kind of seems far. But when I address the Holy Spirit, like I know he's with me like all the time. So now I start addressing more like directly to the Holy Spirit. Yeah, and that has helped me like a lot actually, in kind of that daily walk with him. I kind of got off topic, but that's kind of like the glow up course, right? Um, because I talk a lot about routine. Routine where you pour into yourself, you build a healthier relationship with God, and you kind of step into your divine, like feminine, like who God really intended you to be, because you get rooted, as your identity as a daughter of a king, but also as a woman, woman of God. Um, Okay, so creating routine, establish a consistent daily schedule that includes time for focused work, relaxation, and self-care activities. Like, for example, in my calendar, I write down when I'm gonna wash my hair. Like, I kind of have like thick, I mean, this is kind of a little TMI, but like, I don't wash my hair every day. I kind of have thick hair, it doesn't get oily very fast, but I put it down on the schedule because, like, but it even goes sometimes like with my outfits, or sometimes it goes with my gym routine. Like if I know my hair is getting kind of dirty, that means I can go hit the steam room. I can go hit the sauna, so it's like everything kind of like I'm taking care of, like I'm taking ownership. I'm taking control of my time. And that even includes when I'm gonna wash my hair. It even includes when I'm gonna like bathe my kids. Because sometimes they do like showers, and sometimes they do like kind of, you clean, like you wash them kind of like more, right? So all of those things are super important because those are things that you can control and they will help you get out of freeze because you're taking accountability of what you can control. Um, or like movie night. On Fridays we do a movie night. So that's my relaxation time. I know that on Friday nights, that's our movie night. Um, so making sure you're making time for relaxing. Next one is managing distractions. So that means maybe turn off some notifications on your phone. Maybe like you get a ding for like some apps that like you don't really like need. Um, that you're maybe not very active of and like you're constantly like going on your phone. Um, maybe like I don't know, like Viber you don't use very much and if you have your notifications, um, it's going to be going like off like a lot. So see what notifications you can turn off. Also, maybe don't even like pick up every call that you get. That's what I noticed. I was like, if it's important, like if it's urgent, they will leave me a voicemail or they will leave me like a text message and I'll read it. And if it's like urgent, I will call them back. And that's actually, I don't do it all the time. If something like this person doesn't really call me and they called me, like I'll pick up their, phone. But if I know I'm gonna spend like 30, 40 minutes with this person and they're probably gonna like complain about something. Maybe not even complain, but like they just want to like chit chat. If you don't really have the time to like chit chat, like don't pick up that call. And they can, and you know what happens is they're not gonna get offended. They're just gonna call another person to call, and that's okay. Um, Okay, next one is being self-compassionate. Be kind to yourself. Acknowledge the setback. So sometimes when you are in freeze, you may feel like you are being set back, and this is where you're like, it's okay. Like, we're not being as productive, but that's okay. But also see it as a learning opportunity, and you're like, what am I like not addressing? Where's this like coming from? So don't just like sit in the setback, but like take accountability and like change things and ask yourself like what do I need to change? So like don't sit in the setback. Um, and avoid self-criticism, right? Avoid that negative self-talk. Next one is set goals. Choose one goal to focus on. Okay, like are you focusing on this week on sleeping better? Are you focusing on eating better? What are you taking ownership of this week? Um, um, maybe even find accountability partners. And actually, like after we get done in this chat, I want you guys to write down like one thing that you are going to focus on this week. What are you going to become more disciplined about this week? So drop it in the chat and we're going to hold each other accountable. Um, Also, seek help if you are easily triggered, easily frustrated, if you're overwhelmed, and little things bother you. Like if you're very sensitive to the noise, and you're always like distracted, you're always like maybe you have like road rage, and people always like cut you off, and like you're not very calm. Um, you know, book a one-on-one with me. Like I'd love to help you kind of get out of this emotion. And actually, like sometimes like people cancel when they're like in freeze mode and they don't want to get, but that's exactly when you should get on a call with somebody. Maybe not me, maybe you have like a friend or somebody that like helps you through this, but like that's sometimes exactly like when you don't know how to like process that emotion, somebody can help you like process that. And once you do it a couple of times, this is why you don't really want to go to people that don't really know this, like kind of go to somebody that's a little bit more like professional, because once you get the hang of it and they do it with you a couple of times, then you'll begin to learn how to get yourself out of this like state. Okay. Okay, next one is be more present, be mindful. So if you are eating, you're eating, like you're intentional, you're watching what you are eating, right? If you are um I don't know, just be like more present, like try not to Like if somebody's talking to you, kind of like be present in that conversation. If you're talking to your child and you are maybe like dressing them up or like you're brushing their hair, like instead of like thinking about something, like be present with that child. This is like actually like huge what I've noticed. Sometimes like we have mom guilt that we're not spending enough time with the kids. Um, and maybe we spend more time with like the little ones because like they need more of our help. We're not really like spending too much like with the older ones. So whenever you get like one-on-one time with like a certain child, really like talk to them and be like, hey, how are things? You know, how are things in school? How are your friends? And it's all about not the quality of time that you spend with them, but the quality. Sometimes people are like, yeah, but I spent all my, all my days are with the kids. It could be, that's quality, quantity, but is it quality? Sometimes moms that are like working moms, but they can be like present moms as well, like because they like if they're like doing something with the child, like they're very like present. Like if they're driving like to school or after school, like they're not like just like turning on music just so they wouldn't like hear the noise of the kids. But maybe you guys are having like a conversation where everybody can talk about something. Maybe you guys can talk about, hey, what should I cook today for dinner? And they can all tell you what they want to eat. And you're like, okay, well, today I can cook this. Today we're going to do what this child wants. Tomorrow I'll cook what this child wants. And we're going to take turns. So, make it like more fun, So it's all about that like quality time with the kids. Maybe have like a little bit of like a tickle party with them, as like you're putting them to bed. Do a little tickle party with them. Maybe like a little bit of a like pillow fight. Like Saturday morning, do maybe like a pillow fight with your kids. Like I'm telling you, it's gonna do a lot. It's gonna change a lot if you kind of like have these like fun moments with them. Um, okay. So that's being like present. Next one is practice gratitude. Recognize small wins or points of joy throughout the day. So what are good things happening? What is the 1% that happened good to you today? What maybe nothing like joyful really happened, but like what are you grateful for? So start being doing that journal, start running a journal. What are you grateful for? That and those can be like three things that you are grateful for. And this will get you out of your freeze as well. Not only does it build a discipline where you're journaling, it's very healing, but it also gets you out of like the negativity, right? And you're getting into gratitude. So super powerful exercise. Okay, and then find motivation. What is your why? Is it the kids? Is it so like identify your obstacle, replace your old habits. We're all here like kind of like in our 30s, maybe like early 40s. It's a habit that we've built all of these years. So it's gonna take some time to going from negative self-talk to positive self-talk. But this is something you have to make yourself do. It's not going to just magically happen for you. It's something because negativity, sin, that's more what the flesh wants. That's what's comfortable. That's what keeps us in comfort. It's actually not comfortable to be disciplined. That's not comfortable, right? And the body, it likes to be safe. It likes to, and sometimes safe is not what's best for you. It's what's familiar. So what's familiar can be comfortable and can feel safe. Okay? But it's actually like not, right? Um, okay, we are wrapping up. And why is there a lack? So kind of like why? Like why is this happening to you? One, it could be the environment that you are living in. If you are in constant stress, if you have unclear goals, and you are only relying on motivation, like you watch motivational speakers, but you don't have that like self-motivation. This is where it goes from self-motivation to discipline. Discipline means you do it like no matter what. You do it no matter how you feel. So also it could be seeking instant gratification, fear of failure, unrealistic expectations, which like I kind of had that, like where I was expected a lot. It could be from yourself, you're expecting a lot, or other people are putting a lot of pressure on you, and it's kind of like unrealistic. Um, Poor time management, tendency to prioritize immediate comfort versus long-term benefits. This is like, you don't really want to hit the gym, but going to the gym is actually an investment to yourself, to your older self. So if you don't want to have diabetes, you want to have a regular exercise routine. If you want to look healthier, when you're 60, 70, 80, and you cannot take care of yourself. Like I see like old like women at the gym and they got their like work gear on. They're over there like on the treadmill. And I'm like, I am so like proud of them. They got their hair and their makeup and they feel good. Like that's the kind of like older woman like I want to be. Um, Okay. And like if you've never done that, you're not going to do that when you're like 60, 70, 80. Like you're probably going to be sick and your bones are going to be weak. So if you don't want to have like arthritis and weak bones, that's something you do like now. It's kind of like a retirement fund, right? We have a savings, we have a retirement fund, right? What, right? So that we can have better, secure, or like, you know, older years, like when we're older. Okay, and how do I know if I lack discipline? If you delay tasks, if you don't stick to plans, if you are easily distracted, or you choose fun stuff over important stuff. So this is kind of an indicator that you are kind of like you need more discipline in your life. Um, and the next thing is change your perception about discipline. Kind of like fall in love with it or fall in love with how you feel after. For example, you may not want to go to the gym, but fall in love with how you feel after. Like you got your like blood flow going, you feel happier, you got natural endorphins. So fall in love with the feeling afterward. Like you don't want to clean the house, but what does it feel like when you have a clean house? You don't want to clean your car, but like, what is the feeling of having a clean car? Like, I love me a clean car. I'm like, oh my gosh, like a clean car can really do like a lot for you. I'm like, I am like loving this. It smells good. It smells fresh. I get inspired, you know. So fall in love with the feeling afterwards. So don't attach like a negative emotion to the task. Like start attaching a more positive emotion to the outcome of that task. Okay. Now, and this is like very biblical, where the Bible talks a lot about self-control. So discipline is self-control, and it's a fruit of the spirit, and it is essential for living a righteous life. It is a daily struggle, but the Bible offers wisdom and assurance that God can help. And some Bible verses to go with this is Proverbs 5:23. For lack of discipline, oh no, those who lack discipline, they will die. They will be led astray by their own great folly. 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love and discipline. Interesting that he adds discipline in here. Power and love and discipline. Proverbs 25:28 compares a person without self-control to a city without walls. So if you have no control, no self-control, no discipline, you're like a city without walls and you're going to be easily attacked. Okay. Freeze and no self-control is the result of you feeling like you have no control over your life. And this is where you often it comes from you prioritizing others. So I hope that was like helpful for you guys. I know it was a lot of information, but maybe you can go back and watch this. I will save this video and maybe take some notes and see what area are you struggling in.